Welcome to Sachiko Exploring History. Today we are headed to Shuzenji Onsen, the oldest hot spring in Izu Peninsula, Japan. Shuzenji has many places associated with the Genji family, the founder of the first warrior government in Japan. So if you are interested in samurai, you must go to Shuzenji. What makes Shuzenji different from other historical spots? Well, this place reminds us of how difficult it is to maintain family unity, even when the members succeeded in gaining power, wealth, and fame. Or perhaps ironically because they did succeed. In this episode, Mr. Aoki, a knowledgeable member of the Shuzenji Hometown Guide Association, will take us to crucial historical spots to understand the dramatic events involving warrior leaders and families, such as the assassination of young shoguns. In the middle of the Shuzenji hot spring town, there is a beautiful Buddhist temple called Shuzenji. Shuzen in Shuzenji literally means doing a right thing or accumulating good deeds, and Ji means temple. When we got there, our guide, Mr. Aoki, welcomed us.
修善寺ふるさとガイドというガイドになってます。はい。
ありがとうございます。
このお寺は西暦807年に一番最初のお寺として、作られました。その時にくれと指示をしたのが空海弘法大師として有名なね、お坊さんですけども。
Kukai is known as the founder of Shingon sect, which is one type of esoteric Buddhism, or Mikkyo in Japanese. Mikkyo's mi or mitsu literally means secret, and kyo means teachings. And such teachings are so profound that they require serious training. Ooh, that sounds powerful. By the way, what is this thing that Kukai is holding, which looks almost like a weapon? It's one of indestructible mallets, or Buddhist tools that symbolize the spirit of the Buddha that defeats worldly desires. Despite its powerful teachings and distinguished founder, the temple Shuzenji still had ups and downs over its 1200-year history. Mr. Aoki said that by around the late 1100s, the temple once fell into a decline. Especially in 1180, Minamoto no Yoritomo raised his army in Nirayama, here in the Izu Peninsula, only 11 kilometers from Shuzenji. Since this developed into Japan's first civil war that lasted for 5 years, such prolonged unrest in society might have further deteriorated the temple's condition. After the war ended, a lady from the winning side supported the temple to recover.
1200年前後に北条政子さん力を貸してここを作り直してます。
Hojo Masako was the wife of Minamoto no Yoritomo, the first shogun of the first warrior government in Japan. She was also the mother of the second and third shoguns. Masako was a daughter of Hojo Tokimasa, who had a power base in Izu. She met Yoritomo, who had been exiled to Izu in his early teens after his Genji family was defeated in the Heiji War, and his father and older brothers were all killed. According to Genpei Josuiki, a medieval war tale, Tokimasa didn't approve of his daughter dating Yoritomo, who was an exile, but Masako ran away from home in heavy rain to meet him. At the end, Tokimasa gave in and allowed them to marry. Masako gave birth to daughters and sons, but unfortunately all died young, between teens to 20s. Especially her first son Yorie's death is noteworthy, because he was said to have been assassinated by Masako's Hojo relatives, either her father Tokimasa or her brother Yoshitoki. Mr. Aoki took us to Yorie's grave in Shuzenji.
この石碑は 江戸時代に作られてますので、随分亡くなってから後で別に作ったものです。で、お墓はこちらです。
はい。あ、もともとこういう形にだったんです。
はい。船形の頼家の墓はこれです。
真ん中
の小さいものです。
あ、そうなんです。結構小さかったんです。
まあもうドタバタで殺されたこともあって、まあこれひっそりと作った跡が見えるような感じがします。骨もね集めてここへ捨てられたんでしょうけど、残念ながら首から下だけで、首から上は鎌倉へ運ばれてったろうと思います。
The grave on the right is for Yorie's son Ichiman, and on the left is Ichiman's mother, Lady Wakasa. But
ただですね、一幡は、この頼家が死ぬ前に、比企家の乱ですでに殺されてたんだ、もう殺されてたんだろうと言われてます。
To understand why Yorie's young son was killed, we need to know a few things. First, in medieval Japan, kids often grew up in their mother's household, so her family gained great influence over the next generation. Second, children, especially from a noble family, had wet nurses, and such nurses and their family members often acted as guardians to support the children. So, wet nurse families could gain great influence on the next generation too. Yoritomo's wet nurse was a lady called the Nan of the Hiki family, and he chose his first son Yorie's wet nurse from the Hiki family as well. Yorie was born and grew up in the Hiki household. Yoritomo and Masako's second son Sanetomo, however, grew up in Kamakura, the power base of the Hojo, and Masako's sister was chosen as his wet nurse. Meanwhile, Yorie married the daughter of Hiki Yoshikazu, Lady Wakasa, and they had Ichiman in 1198. Here, Masako's family Hojo gained overwhelming influence in the shogunate, but another family was also growing in power, which was Hiki. Under this circumstance, the Hiki incident erupted based on a conflict between the Hojo family and the Hiki family as a surprise attack on Hiki Yoshikazu, who was invited to a Buddhist ritual sponsored by Tokimasa. Yoshikazu was killed at the spot, and his residence was also attacked in order to wipe out his family members, including Ichiman. At that time, Yorie had been ill and was recovering, but he was forced to transfer his shogunate position to Sanetomo and was placed under house arrest in Shuzenji. The place where Yorie was murdered is by the Katsura River.
And this is a place, 源頼家assassinated. 時政ですね。政子にとってはお父さんの、軍勢がやってきて、ここにあった露天風呂だったらしいんですけども、頼家をここで殺したそうです。
So basically, his grandfather
Yes, that's right.
killed him. It's kind of sad.
で昔はこんな建物なかったですから、自分から見るとここは見えるような、そういう近いところで、殺された。
So then, if the bath was originally here, then the spring must be close by here?
It's a good question, because today, this place is a public hot spring spot where you can stop by and take a bath. But the spring source is not here. In modern Shuzenji, multiple hot spring sources have tanks, and from there, hot waters were distributed to different facilities. But of course, we cannot simply apply the same situation to the medieval times.
当時はこの近くで湧いてたんです。
So during Kamakura time, when he was killed, I think the source was around here, from it's next to the river. Sometimes river itself is kind of warm and. Yeah, it's not rare that hot springs come out from the riverbank or from the riverbed. More than 8 centuries ago, Yorie died in such a tragic manner. I wonder how his mother Masako felt about it. There is no clear record, but the temple Shuzenji has some objects that suggest her feelings. They were found inside the temple's principal image, the seated statue of Great Sun Buddha of the Diamond Realm. In 1984, the statue was dismantled to repair the deteriorating damage. And what came out from the body of the statue? 3 bundles of hair. Since the statue was never been dismantled before, these hair bundles must have been stored when the Buddha statue was made. Whose hairs are those? Who put them? It's a statue with many mysteries. Well, we know that the person who commissioned the statue was Masako, and it's known that it was dedicated to the temple in 1210, the year of the 7th anniversary of Yorie's death. The statue might have been made to pray for Yorie's soul. It's said that there was a custom to place the remains or belongings of a dead person into a Buddha statue in pre-modern Japan to pray for the deceased. Then were they Yorie's hairs? In 1984, DNA testing was impossible, but using scientific analysis at the time, researchers found out that 2 sets of the hairs belonged to someone with the blood type O, and another set belonged to someone with the blood type B. The sex of those people were determined as female, so neither were Yorie's hairs. It's said that Masako's blood type was O, based on the research on the mandala offered to Mount Is Shrine, which is presumed to have been embroidered with her hair. Then the blood type O hairs might have been Masako's. A different theory said that since Yorie had multiple wives, another wife of his, Lady Tsuji, is a strong candidate. She took a tonsure in 1210, a month and a half before the statue was made, so this theory also sounds credible. The statue is still a mystery because the hair bundles were put back into the statue as they were. Maybe we will find it out in the future. By the way, Yorie was a victim of the power struggle, but he has often been labeled as a bad shogun. Here at Shuzenji, however, people have a more sympathetic and supportive view towards Yorie. Yorie, Lady Wakasa, and their son Ichiman died separately, but
修善寺の人たちはそれをかわいそうだと思って頼家のそばに作ってやった。
実際にここにもしここに埋められたとすると、
まあ頼家
だけかもしれないと。
多分頼家のことも鎌倉では鎌倉の土地に、第2代将軍ですから、
そうですね。
全部埋めたというふうに言ってるでしょうけど、こちらではそんなふうにね思って、大切にしてるということです。
Similar to Yorie's case, there have been conflicting views on Masako. After Yoritomo's death, Masako played important political roles in supporting the shogunate as a widow. For example, in the early 13th century, the royal court in Kyoto and the shogunate in eastern Japan co-governed the Japanese archipelago. But the retired sovereign Gotoba issued an order to overthrow the shogunate in 1221. Masako made an inspirational speech in front of the shogunate retainers, which united them and led the shogunate to victory. It's the famous Jokyu War, which resulted in the exile of Gotoba to Oki and significantly weakened the power of the royal court. Despite Hojo Masako's political leadership, she has been known as one of the top 3 bad or evil women in Japan. Let's set aside who are the other 2 and focus on Masako here. Yes, she was a strong-willed woman. Yes, when her husband cheated on her, she became mad and had his mistress's house destroyed. But if this makes her evil, it's obviously unfair. Another blame I hear is that she could not stop her son's assassination, but instead helped her natural family, the Hojo, to increase their power. So she was called a ruthless mother. But the people here in the town of Shuzen's hot spring, see Masako in a more positive light and with sympathy. They see Masako as a mother who was distressed by her son's death. She prayed for the repose of his soul by building this Buddhist hall called Shigetsu, and when building it, she offered a set of Buddhist texts called Daizokyo, or the completed Buddhist canon. Shi of the hall of Shigetsu means a finger or 2-point, and Getsu means the moon. As a Buddhist concept, the moon represents the truth or reality itself, while the finger represents linguistic explanations or scriptural teachings. This is a metaphor saying that if we are obsessed with a finger, which means a tool or strategy to do something, we lose sight of the moon, which means what we really want to see, or the essence of things. It seems to me that this symbolized Masako's desire to make amends for her failure to save her son. The Shigetsu Hall is believed to be the oldest wooden building in Izu, and enshrined inside is a statue of Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni statues usually have nothing, but look, this statue has a lotus flower. This is rare. I heard that it's based on a story called Twisting a Flower and Smiling. The story goes like this. One day, during his sermon, Shakyamuni twisted a lotus flower without saying anything. Then only one of his disciples, Kasho, understood the meaning and smiled. This is a metaphor for communicating heart to heart without using words. This idea that enlightenment is not transmitted by the theories or written doctrines is a teaching of Zen Buddhism, and it overlaps with the meaning of Shigetsu mentioned earlier. From here, the Shigetsu Hall and Yorie's grave. What can you see well? That's the temple Shuzenji. This made me wonder if Masako had chosen this location, wishing that the principal image of Shuzenji would watch over her son's afterlife. Local people here also commemorate Yorie by sponsoring rituals and festivals.
よりそれからこれがこの若さの壺です。これが1万。
地元の人とか
そうですです。この子は伊豆市の職員でした。でこの子はそこにある、旅館のお孫さんでした。でその人は東松山市で選抜をされてオーディションを受けて、こちらへ来てもらってます。
Mr. Aoki said that the parade is held around mid-July every year, the death anniversary of Yorie. I want to visit here to see it in the future. By traveling to the actual local places where historical events took place, we can see how the past intersects with current Japan. And it's fascinating to learn how Shuzenji people view the same historical events differently from those in Kamakura, where the warrior government and the Hojo who took control had their bases. To find your own discoveries, please visit Shuzenji. I'm sure your eyes will catch something new about its history and how it interacts with the present. In the next video, I will introduce more about Shuzenji, focusing on my stay at a traditional Japanese inn founded more than 150 years ago. Japanese gardens, beautiful hot springs, and of course, delicious kaiseki meals. Thank you for watching and see you in future episodes.
あったかい。あったかきますね。
これを、修善寺温泉です。
美味しい、なんか柔らかい。